There's been no cabinet resolution yet on the much-anticipated package to address the country's economic recovery. Cabinet met via teleconference until late last night to plan a response to the COVID-19 coronavirus economic impact. Well, ENC's Devin Murugan joining us now. Devin, so another cabinet meeting is set for Monday.
Yeah, you're quite right, Yuveka. You'll remember that when President Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the nation last week, he said that cabinet will develop and announce a comprehensive package of urgent economic measures to respond to the COVID-19 crisis, but also a plan to take the economy forward beyond this period. Now, in a teleconference with the media earlier this week, Finance Minister Tito Mboweni couldn't confirm those details of some of Treasury's proposals. The cabinet statement last night said 5 clusters from government put forward proposals. There's been no resolution, as you said, of those proposed policy interventions, as the extended lockdown, by the way, threatens to plunge the country's ailing economy deeper into recession. Some are arguing that time is running out, Yuveka, because economic and social impacts are now beginning to take its toll on some frustrated communities, so we need it fast.
So what interventions or resolutions were we actually waiting for or anticipating here, Devin?
Well, there's the issue of increasing social welfare grants. We'd like to see what form that takes, possibly a potential Treasury loan guarantee to banks to extend support to businesses. And then there's a finality on a decision for South African Airways. The statement saying Public Enterprises Minister Pravin Gordhan was requested to prepare a document on SAA, which was denied 10 billion rand, you'll know, for its business rescue process. So a lot of these things still outstanding. But I want to bring in Daniel Silk. He's a commentator on the political economy. Daniel, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. So we've had a firm monetary policy response, the Reserve Bank cutting interest rates. There was bond buying as well, the Health Department being efficient, relaying its plan. But Daniel, we're still waiting for a broader economic plan, yeah, aren't we?
Yes, Devin, I think that's been lacking. I think what we've seen certainly in the course of the last 2 weeks has been the very effective scientific and, for that matter, bureaucratic response from the State Health Department to the crisis, but we haven't really seen a rescue package. Now, this is no ordinary rescue package, and I think the point to make here is that, you know, we are looking at some sort of stimulus rescue package, call it what you will, perhaps to the tune of anywhere between 2 and 5% of GDP, if not more. And that's about 100 billion rand or so. So when you've now got to try and find 100 billion rand somewhere in terms of measures to assist business and the broader fight against COVID-19, you are looking at an extensive amount of interaction and engagement with the various alliance partners, departmental heads, etc. And, of course, you are looking at that same old vexed question that we've spoken about before, political bottlenecks that might delay the implementation of such a decision.
Yeah, we understand that economists would be consulted today, other stakeholders would be spoken to and consulted, and of course there's the issue of the visuals we see on the screen, SAA, and then also public sector wages, which is not going down very well. So you mix all of that and you kind of get a sense of what this delay is about as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've really got, you know, the biggest crisis South Africa has faced in recent decades amidst the same amount of political and policy uncertainty that has existed within the ANC over a number of years. So you've really got a double whammy here, a sort of titanic clash, in a sense, between a rescue package and overcoming some of those political constraints. In a sense, the low-hanging fruit, I suppose, is not providing additional funds to South African Airways, an issue that was already very much in debate, and I think we were all ready for issues relating to SAA prior to COVID-19. But now government is forced almost in an extra speedy way to address those structural issues which relate to the public sector wage bill and even perhaps to propping up further state-owned enterprises as well. And I think government also wants to play it quite carefully, because if they are likely to take any kind of loans, they are going to want to say, listen, we don't want a conditionality attached to the loans coming from the World Bank or the IMF. But at the same time, as government, we are showing an indication that we are prepared to make certain structural changes on our own. And I think we are going to go into that phase very shortly.
Yeah, and we've seen government and the finance minister stress on that point of some of those conditions. And then also, Daniel, I mean, before we even look at what this economy should look like beyond COVID-19, there's this issue of actually getting some industries some leeway in this period to start operating. Businesses should by now start finding out what that next plan would look like in terms of them getting up and running. So in that instance, an immediate response is needed on a policy front to know which sectors can start up running in the midst of this crisis.
Yeah, well, I think, that's the problem that everyone is grappling with all over the world. So one has to give, I suppose, some leeway to government because there is no precedent here. It's the same issue that's being discussed in the United States and in many parts of Western Europe and elsewhere. But I do think that it's now time to look at tweaking this lockdown, looking at a smarter approach to at least incrementally and very slowly allowing some form of economic activity back into the equation. After all, we are likely to see this GDP contraction of perhaps 7 to 9%. I mean, it's a historic contraction for us in South Africa, and the economic damage is huge. But I do take the point, and I think one has to reiterate the point, that the caseload of new COVID-19 cases in South Africa has to be brought down to manageable levels before we can really look at any significant kind of opening up of the economy.
All right, thanks very much indeed. Daniel Silk there, a commentator on the political economy. And Yuveka, Dan, as we said, that cabinet meeting now postponed to Monday. In the days leading up to that, you'll see consultation taking place between the different stakeholders. So we really anticipate this economic plan due to be relayed to us, as we are told, on Monday.
Yeah, unfortunately, the harder work is yet to begin as we continue. This is just phase one of it all.